I don't know what menopause has done for me. I actually got skinnier and wanted to fuck everything. It's so bizarre.
Your realization of how important it is to feel safe, provided for, and protected by a partner.
Well, let's start with my old man, my father. Mistakes were a thing to go, what's gonna happen? And I loved that as a girl. I never felt like we're fucked. So then you fast forward to having a man. When the men in my life expressed a fear of if we were gonna be okay, I really had a visceral reaction to it. It took away my sex. It took me years to realize you don't have to be satisfied with mediocre sex, and you don't have to pretend something's good that isn't.
For a woman in that situation who looks at her partner and is like, I just do not feel like having sex with you, what would you say to her?
Toronto kids in the house.
Now that we're friends,
Yes.
let's talk intimately. Okay. What is calling you to talk about? What's something that's been on your spirit when it comes to sex, love, relationships, dating?
I think I want to talk about the revolution of being in my 50s and how great sex is in your 50s. And experimentation in your 50s when you get older. And I'd like to talk about the revelation that my sex is definitely tied to my safety.
You believe it's magic.
What does safety mean to you? Define that word for me.
We both have been through enough and experienced enough that we know it is going to be okay. So we don't have to go through the ritual of panic. Listen, people get scared, I get scared, but it doesn't have to derail our connection, because I think my impetus is, I'll fix it. And I don't want to always have to fix it.
Oh my gosh, that's giving me chills.
Uh-oh.
This is it, right?
Okay, that's it. Yeah, let's
you gotta
do
warm me up with some tea now.
Okay, tea it is.
Cree Summer is a legendary actor, voice artist, and singer known for her iconic roles in A Different World, Rugrats, and a whole lot more of your fave cartoons. Currently, you can find Cree on Abbott Elementary or making history as the first Black female lead in the new Adult Swim series. Oh my God, yes.
Cheers.
Cheers to finally meeting you.
Oh my, isn't that so weird?
Yes.
Do you know what's actually funny about that is I've already been talking about you as if I know you.
Perfect, perfect.
We went to dinner last night and we met Nancy Cartwright.
Cartwright, yes.
Cartwright?
Yes.
Bart Simpson.
Bart Simpson.
And so we're talking to her, and then Jared and I were like, oh, like we actually know voice actors. We're going to one's house next week. We're going to Cree Summer. It's extremely famous. And then she's like, of course I know Cree. We work together on Rugrats.
We do Rugrats together.
That's
right.
So we've already been in it. And then she was like, how is she? And now I'm like, I don't really know her, so I have the responsibility now of carrying this on. I didn't say, but what I should have said is that she is fantastic and having the best sex of her life.
Yes, I am.
Right, so I'll send this video to Nancy, but yeah, tell the tale. Before we dive into what we're talking about today, I'd love to hear about your great sex life.
Well, it's so crazy. I mean, I'm 55, and I was always in rock bands ever since I was a girl. I think I was in my first rock band at the age of 11. And my mother would always say, you kind of put the fear of God in me about boys. And then if you add that to living with them and touring with them, and always, because I was always the only chick, and there'd be, 4 other dudes or 5 other dudes, and my girlfriends would be losing their minds over them and always crying. And so I really didn't want to mess with boys for years growing up. I liked the feeling of being their friends, and I liked the respect of being their friends, and I didn't want to cry all the time. And so I was a very late bloomer. My first real boyfriend was Kadeem on A Different World, so I was 19 years old. And I have always also taken my time. I've never been a one-night stand kind of girl, not because I don't want to, it's just not how I'm built. I remember trying it once, and he was going down on me, and I realized he thought my last name was Franks because my middle name is Summer, and that threw me off. I thought, he doesn't even know my name. I'd like him to get out of there. So I've always been just a little...
How did that come up while he was going down on you?
I don't know, it was the first thing I thought.
He's like, ooh, Miss Summers.
No, he kept saying Cree, and I was like, oh no, I think he thinks my last name is Summer. So I just wanted him to know it's actually Frank. But I've just always taken my time, and sometimes it hasn't been the best. I think. Just that little trepidation that I used to think was such a great thing, I think it's maybe not allowed me to experience things fully. And now in my 50s, I just don't care anymore. And I'm feeling things I've never felt before and trying things I've never felt before. There's a freedom now that I never had not even in my 40s. And I think I don't care anymore. This is such a dangerous town sometimes with the beauty ideals and not allowed to be old. And I spent a lot of my time being hemmed up in vanity. And now that I really can't be, I'm the second half of my life. And now I don't care so much about what it looks like.
What are you talking about? You're still hemmed up in vanity. You're dripped out.
You know
gorgeous,
what I mean. I just
down.
mean in the sense that I used to think maybe my clothes come off and everything has to be perfect.
Understood.
And now I'm
Understood.
55, you really can't, it is where it is. I've nursed 2 babies. And,
Wow,
I
love that.
And there's just something about loving the way it looks and loving the way it feels now at last that's helped my sexuality.
Oh, can you paint me a picture of what that looks like?
Oh my goodness.
Is there a moment that you can take me into?
Well, I think I'm learning that I didn't know that I like things so slow. I think I didn't know that eye contact was the most important thing to me. I never knew that I wanted to look at someone all the time or be looked at, be seen so deeply. That really turns me on. I have to hit my mic. That turns me on. And also, I like to be choked a little bit.
I love that the first part was sensual and loving,
And then it just goes,
Yeah.
I never knew I would like something like that. And now I think at this age I would say, can you try this or give that a try? And then I loved it. And I think I'm also a little more submissive than I ever thought I was. Sexually, not anywhere else. Which is maybe why it shows up there. I like to be a little controlled and a little manhandled, and I don't think I would have ever verbalized those things. When you're approaching intimacy with fear and everything has to be so slow and so measured, it doesn't open you up to try anything. And that's the gift of getting older with my sex life. I'm not afraid anymore. And I do want to try. There's more things I still want to try. I feel like a kid that way, But it's hard in this town. This is not a place where I have the opportunity. I don't get asked out on a lot of dates. I never get asked out on dates. And I don't know if it's being 55 in Los Angeles or if it's just a strange town,
What does that feel like?
It's a weird juxtaposition. It's a weird counterintuitive feeling because I actually feel more beautiful now than I have ever felt before. I feel like I've come into my face. I've come into my body. I've really come into my sense of style. So it's weird to not be seen as much. You do become a little more invisible the older you get as a woman, unfortunately.
It's not to say that it's fantastic to be sexually
To be
harassed.
ogled and sexualized.
Correct.
No, it's
Exactly.
not that.
Yeah. But you do notice when the gaze shifts, and there is a mourning that has to come with that.
It's a juice you get. I remember you could walk into a Starbucks, and all the men would be going, checking you out. And then you walk into a Starbucks and you're not getting that same hit, and you do kind of go, and then you realize that juice and that feeling that you get from being seen as beautiful, you have to self-generate.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Do you think that there's a
Yes.
relationship between feeling more beautiful, feeling more free, feeling more sexy, more sexually open, and then not having that based on what other people give to you, but what you know for
1000%.
yourself?
Oh, as a girl, it was completely dependent upon the male gaze. And now it's dependent upon my gaze. Yes.
But it's like, can't we get both?
I think we can. As a matter of fact, I think about you and I talking about mothering.
Yeah.
And I think more women that mother with this kind of awareness, I think our daughters could potentially get both. I really do. Conversations that our mamas weren't having.
Yes.
Conversations about aging we weren't having with our mamas. you know? I talk to my daughters about aging, about how fucking great it is, you know? I don't want them to be afraid of it.
No, it's a blessing.
It's a blessing.
And the only other option is death.
The only other option is death.
That's it. That's all I got for you.
That's all I got, yeah.
Or you could be puffed up like a Michelin Man.
That's right.
You could be a marshmallow, you could be dead, or you could be yourself.
Or you could be so taut that you can, bang a quarter off it like those beds in the barracks in the army. Yeah.
Which I don't hate on. I think
No.
that there's something about that too. Like if you have a store for 40 years, you're going to want to refresh the paint.
I see nothing wrong with it. It's when it borders into the grotesque.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. I'm curious about that though, because you're having the best sex of your life.
Yes.
Maybe the sexual energy is not being whipped at you.
It's not being thrown at me. I'd like it to come at me a little more.
Well, you're getting it somewhere. Can you give a little insight how you are still inviting sexuality, flirtatiousness, play, seductiveness into your world?
Well, like I said, I'm a lover of clothes, and I definitely feel very sexual in how I express the way I dress, which my daughters would laugh because I oftentimes wear Victorian collars and things, but that to me is very sexual,
Yes.
very sexy. I love being covered up. I find there's something about it. Maybe you get into the fabrics.
Oh, I could tell you're a freak.
Like maybe you get into the fabrics of something. I remember I had a date and this dude came over and looked at my dress and said, "Is this a test?"
Like, how do I get in this?
Yes, how do I get in this? Where's the fucking opening? Where's the zipper? Anyway, it was very fun finding out. I think I find it in my friendships. I find it in the odd man that's brave enough to approach me, and they're usually a lot younger. I never get approached by men my age. It's always someone in their 30s or that has the courage to come up and say something. It's interesting that's how it is. That's how it's been since my 40s. Always younger men.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And you're the father of your children's also.
Father of my children, also 16 years my junior. Nothing
My
wrong
husband's
with
younger
that.
than me.
Very
That's a vibe.
energetic.
Very
You know what I mean?
energetic, very light.
And ready to go.
Yes.
Ready to go. Which is, ready to go is an overlooked fucking asset.
It really is.
Yes. Because we're ready to go.
Yeah.
Right? I don't know if that's a real biological thing. You could tell me. But I'm definitely more libidinous at 55 than I was in my 30s and 20s.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm much hornier now. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And insatiable now.
But I think that's also, too, a part of the freedom that you've given yourself to embrace that part of you.
Yeah.
It's interesting. We had a conversation with Tika Sumpter, and she was a late bloomer as well. And she was talking about that, how her mom scared her out of doing anything.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, I guess in a lot of parents' minds, that's the goal.
Right. Stop them from being the neighborhood mattress.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. But then in the end, they now spend 20 years trying to figure out what they like, who they are, how to voice that for themselves, and how to own that animalistic, horny side of themselves that they were afraid of for so long.
And don't think that doesn't bleed into the rest of your life. I hate this assumption that there's sexuality and then there's the rest of your life. It's the same. It's together. It's integrated. And I do think that about myself. I feel more expressed as an artist, being more expressed sexually.
Oh, I love that. Your house is very sexy, actually.
Thank you.
It is. Your whole being is vibrant. It's erotic.
Thank you.
And erotic just means alive, aroused,
Yes.
awake. And I think that you live a very erotic life. And kind of talking about how everything bleeds together, something that we talked about discussing that really piqued my interest is your realization of how important it is to feel safe, provided for, and protected by a partner.
Yes.
Even in relation, I think now to liking being choked, a part of that.
No, I think it all goes hand in hand.
Yeah,
forgive
more.
the pun. But I think
That's a good pun.
I think it does go hand in hand. Well, let's start with my old man, my father, whose name was Iron Buffalo, right? To give you some insight as to how alpha he was. My parents met in the 60s, and when I was born, they dropped out of society completely. And they went to live on a reservation with the Plains Cree Indians in Saskatchewan called Red Pheasant. And we stayed there for 6.5 years, and then we lived nomadic in a school bus, and we found ourselves in horse stables. We lived in an abandoned boxcar that was on a railway track. We just lived all kinds of ways in teepees. And we didn't have a lot of money because nobody was working real jobs. And I remember, you pull up to a gas station and there'd be no money for gas. And my father would delight in these circumstances. He had this, how are we going to get gas? Watch your daddy get gas, Cree Summer. And then I would watch him, barefoot, 2 braids in his hat, saunter up, excited, and say, these signs, I could paint the hell out of these signs for you. And then he'd say, look at my bus. The school bus we lived in was beautifully decorated. He painted the shit out of it. And before I know it, he'd have painted the signs, we'd have gas, and be invited over for dinner. So there was something of, also even doing homework in school. I'd make a mistake and he'd say, oh, what are we going to make it into? Should we make that a tree? And then my report had a tree instead of a T right there. And he would just get so delighted about it. So mistakes were a thing to go, oh, what's going to happen? Or we don't have money to sleep here. What are we going to do? And I loved that as a girl. I never felt like we're fucked or, oh my God. And you also have to consider that I was in precarious, extreme situations and never felt like, oh no. So then you fast forward to having a man. And also the fact that I became completely financially independent.
Before we move on there, I'm just curious about your mom.
Yeah.
Because some people can be the counter to that.
Yeah. Oh, she delighted in it too.
I love that.
Because you got to think that they met, both of them, the trajectory for their careers. He was the star of Francis Ford Coppola's first film, Fred Astaire's last film, and my mother was dancing in the chorus. She was dating Hugh Masekela and Dennis Hopper at the time. What a player. And anyway, she fell in love with my old man and followed this old dusty hippie into this life she never imagined for herself. Mm-hmm. So you can imagine his magic had to be so profound that she trusted it. And then I in turn trusted it.
Yeah.
And I moved to LA at 16 and then I turned 17 a couple months later, and 6 months later I was on Different World. So I've always been ferociously independent. And when the men in my life, my partners, expressed a fear of if we were going to be okay, I really had a visceral reaction to it. It took away my sex. Instantly, it would take away my sex. And there was something so extremely unattractive about, I have to be careful here because I don't want anyone to get the impression that I don't respect uncertainty or fear. Those are real things. There's something about the approach to it that I don't want anyone to make me feel unsafe.
Yes.
If you're feeling unsafe, we can talk about it and investigate it together, but I don't want it to become my fear too, because I don't approach it that way. And it really has been the demise of some pretty long-term things in my life, yeah.
I think when people hear provide or they hear provision, we put lipstick on the pig, but we really just mean money.
Money. We mean money. That's right. Capitalism.
That's not what you mean.
I don't mean money. Shit, all the broke motherfuckers that have been in my life and are in my arms, it's not money. And like I said, my family never had any money. It was that feeling that my father always had that we were going to be okay. And then it was never like, oh no, batten down the hatches, run, everybody scream, our hair's on fire. And when I've had men in my life approach me with that, oh no, I don't know what I'm going to do or what we're going to do, it was the end of us really doing anything. Yeah.
Did you know that then, or you know that now?
I had no idea. I had no idea that was turning me off. I just noticed that it would lead to the physical relationship would stymie. So now I'm happy to know that, because I would love to have a husband and a real partner, someone that we could get excited about the trials and tribulations in life together. Yeah, that would be great.
That's so sexy, and to see that light in your eyes, I hope is very affirming for people. I'm actually not somebody who heavily subscribes to masculine and feminine or the idea of the rigidity of the binary, yet this conversation finds me quite a bit. And I think that that's because it's just been in the zeitgeist post-pandemic.
Yes.
Everyone's kind of thinking about it, and people are reflecting on it, and then pulling for them, what is true and what is not. So I think for some people, it can feel instantly triggering in a positive or negative way if we say, you know what, if a man cannot provide a sense of safety, then he is not fuckable.
He's not my man. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's not my man. Yeah. And you're right, sense of safety does not equate with coin. It equates with that feeling that you are the man that can make sure we're going to be okay. Because you know we're going to be okay. You can't fake that.
Yeah.
You either know you're going to be okay or you don't.
Can you empower somebody? Like how your dad empowered that in you?
Yeah.
Would it have been possible for you to empower past partners with that, to give them...
No, I couldn't have done it then. Now I could. I didn't know what it was. I just knew I was so turned off. And I think I looked at it as a negative thing. Like, get your shit together, man. Step up. And I think also my reaction was, I'll take care of it. Because I've always felt very well endowed in a relationship. Like I've got a huge cock in this one.
I love that you gesture to your very large...
I always feel like I have a huge dick. And I don't want to have that. Then we're sword fighting, And I think I always had such a negative reaction. I couldn't have empowered a man. But now that I can articulate it and I know exactly what it is, I could say to them, hey, oh my God, shit's hit the fan. What are we gonna do? This is fucking great. How are we gonna get out of this one? Because it is exciting. That was such a gift of nomadic life, not knowing what's coming, and the thrill of overcoming it. It's thrilling. I mean, my best friend and I, who's an actress, Tamara Taylor, we were talking about how we still get so deathly afraid when we're doing our jobs. And the thrill it is afterwards when you did it. And that's what I always wanted from a partner, was the thrill that we got over it,
And the confidence in knowing that you've done it before. So what
we
makes
got money in the bank.
Circumstance any different?
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. We got money in the bank.
And when you zoom out and you look at life, you're like, statistically, this is going to work out.
Statistically, we're going to be all right.
Right.
We don't have to lose our shit over this.
Yeah,
we're going to make it.
Most people are losing their shit.
Yeah, I think it's almost programmed, and sometimes I think it could be a superstition too, right? Like, if I freak out, it always works out. And so you do that dance or ritual or whatever they want to do. But I find that I don't want to. My adrenals can't take it, right? Yeah.
Do you think that there's something that's like inherently man and woman with this conversation? Tell me about it.
A little bit.
Tell me.
I mean, I feel like I'm very in my feminine. I always feel very in my feminine until I get with a particular partner. And then I feel very masculine. And unconsciously, I go to taking care of everything. I drive a muscle car. I love motorcycles. I have a lot of things that would be, I guess, termed masculine, I've always been that way. But I do feel in that really silly, masculine, feminine way, I've always desired a partner to let me be softer. I want to fall into that softness, because I think my go-to is to take care of everything. Even now I find myself as a single parent.
Yes.
Again, I'm the mama and the daddy. I don't want to do both.
But what about a partnership that didn't embrace your big cock and your motorcycles?
Yeah, I need that. I need them to, because sometimes I'm going to have a big cock. I just can't help it. So then you'd have to be okay with it. when I'm bulging, you'd have to be all right.
But you need the space for there to be
I need the
some
space to be both.
Yes,
to be both. I think maybe I wasn't, I need the space to be both. I just haven't found it. I've only found the space where I am the masculine. Yeah, and not by choice. It's not a desire, I like the softness. I like to be cared for, or to have someone else take the wheel.
Yes.
It's lovely to get to just lay back sometimes, And I think if that's not a feeling that you want to have, then once you get into the bedroom, it's a hard feeling to get. You know, if I'm driving all over town and taking care of everything, I don't lay down softly. Fall down, I'm fucking tired. You know what I mean? And I do want to lay down softly. Sometimes.
Have that moment to yourself
Just
in
have
the
the
shower.
just have the option.
You know if someone else is taking care of everything so you can take care of yourself.
Oh my God.
And then fall into bed and expect the same treatment.
Yes. I mean, these days I look forward to a plane ride so I can just take a Valium and go knock out. You know? That feels like a great vacation. You know?
I still attest to that. I actually really resonate with what you're saying too, because in my marriage, I love leaning into my damsel. Yes. I love leaning into the hysteria.
It's fun.
Of like, things are going to work out.
Yeah.
I looked at the bank account, this amount of money. I like it. And then I like that my partner in turn catches me and checks me and reminds me. But I'm reflecting on that because yesterday we had a conversation where I asked, him a question. I think he wanted a moment to just be hysteric.
To be the damsel.
Right.
And men can
I didn't
do that
allow
too.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So sorry. The point of partnership is you have to provide something unique to what I already have. Because if I already have everything, then why do I need you?
And to God.
Right. And we can also have everything, but at different times choose to lay that part of ourselves to rest.
Want to lay it to rest. Yes. I just love when someone says, or I'm going to organize. I've always been an extreme planner. I love to get all my friends together and tell them where we're going and what we're doing. And I just long for a man to do that. You plan it. I don't want to know where we're going. Just tell me what to wear.
Yes.
That excites me. I think it's out there somewhere. And another really interesting thing I've discovered about myself is I don't know if I ever want to live with someone ever again. Mm-hmm. I think, as non-traditional as that is, I really would like a traditional marriage, a monogamous marriage, a real committed marriage, but I don't know if I want someone in my home.
But I also love that how this all kind of ties in together of just like fucking the rules and really leaning into like what feels good for you and finding relationships and sexual relationships and acts and partnerships and ideas that you could just melt into.
Well, it's just so nice that you exist. And I'm so glad that you're a sister, because we have to see a reflection of ourselves to learn about these things.
Yes.
Sometimes to accept these things. And I think about Brave and Hero, my beautiful daughters. And aren't they so lucky? I know the world is on fire. But in this example, aren't they so lucky to be born now? Where they don't have to struggle the way I did. Mm-hmm. Pretending to be something you're not in the bedroom. I mean, I used to pretend to be so coy and so shocked and so amazed. When this is the same old thing, unimpressed, but feigning fascination, But it took me years to realize you don't have to do that. And you don't have to be satisfied with mediocre sex. And you don't have to pretend something's good that isn't. And I'm going to make sure that my daughters don't have to do that dance. And I think we're coming into a sexual revolution, and women are coming to a place where they don't want to do that. Mm-hmm. And they're realizing, I think we probably never wanted to do that, but we're realizing we don't have to do that.
I work for this company called Aria, and essentially it provides a novel sexual experience each month. So it gives you a box that's like, hey, this month you're going to try tying each other up. This month
I've always
you're going
wanted to try that.
Oh, yes.
I've never tried
I actually get you a subscription to it.
Yes, please.
It's just a lot of fun. It's just, as somebody who is inundated by sex toys, I have sex toys like how you have plants.
Right.
How you have pictures.
And I got a lot of fucking plants.
Yeah. As someone who's inundated with it, sometimes it'll come with a pair of socks in the box. And you're like, socks? And then it explains why you need the socks. And you're like, oh. So it's just very fascinating in that way. But that to be said, majority, 80% of people who sign up for this service are women. Many of them are mothers.
Yes.
And a lot of them, I think, are hoping that this is going to make the difference because they've noticed their libido has dried up. And this happens for a lot of different reasons.
Sure, menopause, all kinds of things.
Right? But then here you are.
I don't know what menopause has done for me. I actually got skinnier and wanted to fuck everything. It's so bizarre. And my girlfriends are like, fuck you. But yeah, menopause has just set me on fire. I don't know if it's menopause or just my mind just finally breaking free.
I think it's that.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And just saying, let's try everything. We got like 10 more minutes on the planet. I don't want to fucking waste it.
I love that.
Yeah.
And I think it is partly menopause. I think it is partly the mundane. You got into routine with somebody.
Yeah.
But I do think a large percentage of that is also what you're talking about. When you're with a partner who lacks the erotic, who lacks imagination, and who doesn't give you that sense of security that things are going to be all right. They have a partner who's overextended and lets them know that. A partner who feels stretched thin financially, stretched thin, spiritually, mentally with their time, and they let their partner feel that. For a woman in that situation who looks at her partner and is like, I just do not feel like having sex with you.
No.
What would you say to her?
I would say to her, you don't have to. I'd say you don't have to. And I would say that it's time for a conversation. Unless it's gone so far that you don't think you can ever get that car engine to start again. You need a whole new engine. But I think, we do get to these places in long-term relationships where the conversation even stops. You're so exhausted. And you know what's coming. You know what I mean? And now you're really pissed too and resentful. I think I would tell them to start talking about it. And even before the conversation, a conversation with yourself. Why don't I want to have sex with this person? Really, what's going on? Because I sure as fuck did before. So what's happened in me? And sometimes I find in long-term relationships, we don't appreciate and acknowledge that you're not the same person that you married or got together with 6 years down the line. We're constantly changing. Right? So maybe the chick that let you do that and thought it was exciting realizes she don't even like that shit anymore. Right. And we have to get that. Something I think couples don't do is say, oops, let me introduce myself. I'm a different person now.
Yeah.
I was a different person after I gave birth. A totally different person. I don't think we acknowledge that. There's this wonderful man named Bill Moyer, who was an interviewer. And I remember I used to love it when he would interview Joseph Campbell, a favorite of mine. And he did this wonderful book about the different tribes of man. And of course, all the weed in my head, I can't remember the exact name. But there was this beautiful...
I just want to tell you, I'm amazed at your memory.
Isn't it incredible considering...
Well, not even considering,
such a
just
pothead.
period. The way that you've been able to recall names, dates, and feelings, it's just...
It is a miracle if you ask my daughters how much pot I smoke. But he had this tribe that he interviewed, and they gather the woman to give birth, and as soon as under her they have a cloth. As soon as that first drop of blood hits the cloth, her sisters grab that cloth, they go running, they bury it, and have a full ceremony for her. They cry, they mourn their friend. Oh God, she was so fucking great. We're gonna miss her so much. Wasn't she beautiful? They bury that, then they go in and they introduce themselves to her. And they let her enter that tribe as this new woman who's a mother. Modern man has nothing for us, right? A fucking bar mitzvah? That's just a new fucking car. That is not acknowledging that you're a man now or a woman now, and you've gone through this profound experience, and you want your husband to see, I'm not the chick that you knocked up. I'm the mother that gave birth. And I just think that's something that we don't have modern man in the cities, and when you leave tribal communities, we don't have that anymore. It's been whitewashed right out of our spirit. And I think that's another reason why marriages go tits up. Marriage is a ceremony. And you have to acknowledge those changes, right? Mm-hmm. Or even just relationship is a ceremony. Friendships, every ship. Yeah.
What can you do to recognize that? And how do you recognize that? Because even that question, right? Like, so you feel the feeling. There's no acknowledgement that you're going to have new feelings.
No.
So you're resentful of your own feelings.
Yes, you're like, why aren't I being me?
Yes.
I'm not me anymore. I'm pissed. Or I'm sad.
Yes.
I miss me. Yeah.
So then what?
Well, I think these conversations, and you gather your friends and you say, I'm not me anymore. I'm different. I'm not your same old sister. I'm somebody's mama, and I'm different, and I've changed. And you let your partner know I'm different and I've changed, and they get to acknowledge it because they see it too and feel it too. Everybody feels it, but we just don't talk about it, you know.
I'm curious about that, the change part, because yes, and because even for the partner who, you know, is not able to provide that sense of sureness, that doesn't have that light in your dad's eyes, that sense of mischief. Like,
yes.
it's like sexy
it is mischief. It
right?
is. I think it started to be in some of the languaging I was hearing. And I was, like I said, I was having really visceral reactions.
So listening to your body.
I would go, ugh, stop saying it. Literally, in my mind, I would say, stop saying that. And so I was like, oh, this languaging, I don't like it. And why don't I like it? I don't feel safe.
Mm-hmm.
I don't feel safe. And that's what it was, you know. And to your point, too, about when you hit that place where you just can't get that engine to start, I think, too, we have to have that space where sometimes it was only supposed to drive that car for that long.
Yes.
I mean, that's something we never want to admit. Who the fuck wants to separate and divorce? But sometimes that old car ain't gonna run anymore, and you can polish it, you can put a new fucking motor in it, but it just don't run like it that. It's run its fucking course, literally.
Yes.
Right? And I think that goes hand in hand with acknowledging that we die and are reborn and die and reborn, and we're going to become so many different people on the way to becoming, taking that last gasp. Sometimes that new person you became is not compatible with that person you're with now.
Yes.
You've just changed. And it's wonderful. Thank God. I don't want to be this chick I was 10 years ago. I wouldn't even hang out with her, you know.
Yeah.
So.
And then there's some times where you can invite somebody on the journey to change as well, and there are times
Sure.
where that person is just not interested in going.
It's so hard to evolve at the same time.
Yeah.
And I say that with, I've seen and experienced couples that do evolve at the same time. And they're energizing to be around. You get with them and you leave and you go, holy shit, that felt like I just snorted a whole 8-ball. They're amazing.
Yeah.
They woke me up. And then there are the couples where you leave there and you go, I'm fucking melting. Get me out of here. You know what I mean? And
that couple has to go home and live with each other.
and be together and melt. Oh, God bless them. But again, that's that thing where it's like, oh, stick it out, endure, fix it, you know? Well, sure, if it's not destroying you.
But I think that's the thing about, I mean, I'm like in both spaces.
Yeah.
But I'm also really energized by the idea of having the language to describe this specific pain point that I know a lot of people feel, but don't know how to communicate.
Don't know how to communicate.
And I can't
Yes.
tell you how many older men, you know, I get the question from, like, how many times a week are we supposed to be having sex? Because what they're really asking is, I require this and my partner isn't meeting that standard.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, oh, as much as the person who wants it the least. And they're like, they don't like that answer.
Of course not.
Because there's supposed to be a sense of duty. And I'm like, well, instead of hyper-focusing on meeting a quota, why don't you figure out how to make sex exciting for them?
Make them want to have
Make
sex.
them actually want to have sex with you.
Yes, turn them on.
And if you can give them that information, shouldn't that be inspiring? Like, you know, when your car is broken and you can't figure out why, and then someone says, oh, this is how little I know about cars, gasket?
Sure.
Is that a thing?
Sure, it could be a gasket.
Oh, it's the gasket.
Yeah.
And then you're like, what? What's a gasket?
Yeah.
And then they explain it to you, and you're like, so all I have to do is fix the gasket?
Yes.
And then this thing is going to hum like it was 1995 again?
Yes.
Yes.
And you also have to have a partner, though, that knows themselves, right? That can say it's the gasket. Because there are so many men, I'm sorry, men, not to throw it on you, but there's a lot of men that haven't had to be self-aware, especially sexually self-aware. And so they can't even tell you that it's the gasket.
Right, but you could tell them maybe.
Oh, sure.
But if they're willing to accept you as the mechanic.
Come on.
Right? Look at us metaphors.
Come on.
Look at us
That's the
metaphors
name of
on
our
metaphors.
band. Coming to the stage, at great expense to you, the metaphor. Yes.
Yeah, because I wonder if you can just simply say, like, and not in a way of like what you're not, you can recall a time that they were, even if they weren't really ever. Let me ask that question.
Okay.
Do you think that the partner that you're talking about, that you lost that sex drive for?
Many
Partners. The many partners.
Yeah.
Do you think that there was a time where they had that confidence, that sureness, that mischievousness?
In the beginning, perhaps.
Did they? Or did you have the,
No, I
I'm
had
going to
it.
pretend?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. I had it. I mean, I don't think, so embarrassing to say at 55. I don't think I've clearly chosen a partner that's compatible for me. Yet. With all I know. I'm too smart to have chosen what I've chosen, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. I could have given myself the credit for how intelligent I really am. I think sometimes I found myself in situations past the expiration date purely out of loneliness. I think loneliness is probably the greatest culprit to get me into things where I could have probably just looked at it and gone, I know that ain't gonna work.
Yes.
You know?
Mm-hmm.
But he drives a really nice car and he's, what a smile. And,
Ready.
and he's fucking ready. And then, there you are. I think that's the thing too, is just that patience and that giving yourself the credit to know that you do know what you want, and it's worth it to take a minute, But yeah, I don't think I've ever really done that. And then sometimes also being victimized by being chosen. I just think so happy to be chosen. Mm-hmm. Oh, he chose me, so it must be meant to be.
Even actually when you were talking in the beginning about, the kind of people who approach you and like, well, that's just who approaches me. I'm like, well, who do you approach?
I don't approach anybody.
Why not?
I've never done that before. Ever. I don't think I've ever approached a man. I've never asked a man out.
Why?
I don't know now that we're talking about it. I mean, now that I think about it, what is there to lose?
Right. Yeah. And then you get to actually be in the driver's seat and select.
And I do love the driver's seat.
That's to give yourself credit to not just that you didn't pick the right people, but you have to wait statistically for the right person to pick you.
Yeah.
Right.
It's going to be a hard gig.
Right.
It's going to be hard.
Yeah.
Yes, what a lovely gift. You're so right. I have never, and I've had moments where I've thought someone was really attractive or mostly interesting. I mean, this is really my erogenous zone right here. Mm-hmm. So I've had conversations where I'm like, God damn, this motherfucker is smart, And I haven't said anything, maybe I'll give it a try.
You really should
I think I should.
Your best sex, your best relationship, your most erotic life is like that way.
Woo!
That's really cool.
It's very cool.
A lot of people.
Very cool.
It's way better.
I do. Now I want to try it. Oh my God, my girlfriends are just going to be like, bitch, we heard you say it on camera. It's on. Oh God, I can't wait.
Right?
But I got to tell you, I've been thinking about it because I've been actually thinking about the tying up. There's this website on Instagram I see where they have the specialty things to tie you up. And they're so gorgeous. Like these beautiful ribbons and beautiful gold pieces where, where it holds your neck and your hands.
I don't know what this is.
Oh, I'm going to show you.
Yes.
It's gorgeous. I think because, I have such an aesthetic.
Yes.
And I'm like, if I could be tied up and look this good, let's go.
We can cheers on that. Let's go.
Cheers.
Wow.
What else is there to say? Thank you, Cree Summer. Follow her on Instagram at I am Cree Summer, or catch her starring in and voice directing, oh my God, yes, on Adult Swim, reprising her beloved role on Tiny Toons Looniversity and on ABC's hit series Abbott Elementary. Plus, if you want to experience her energy in person like I did, meet her at NostalgiaCon in Anaheim or NostalgiaCon in Houston. And speaking of meetups, let's check in with my people, the lovers community, to get their reflections on my chat with Cree. I want to share a story with you guys as we're talking about Jared, but we got to record an episode with Raven Simone. And so lo and behold, when you're excited about something, mistakes happen. So we have a conversation with her about her relationship, and it was this rich, nuanced discussion in which you were seeing a real couple, a real healthy couple, kind of process something in real time. So it was very fascinating. And just as I was about to land the plane and round the corner, I'm like, oh, we got it. This was so amazing. I get an interruption and the audio guy is like,
real quick, my absolute worst nightmare has finally come true, and not on the day I wanted it to. But
you haven't been recording this whole time?
I have been recording this whole time. Luckily, these are picking it up. The audio's not gonna be the best. I don't know if there's anything you would like to get, kind of wrap up and touch back on.
And if you can just imagine, the blood drains from my face. And I'm just sitting there trying to keep composed. And we also have now been talking for 40 minutes, right? So we've been together for about an hour. And Jared just popped in. He was like,
if we could do the intro again, talk about the squishies and talk about uh, you going on the View, and then just bring up again how you guys were sleeping in separate rooms,
Okay.
and how you guys came to that point.
So you want us to do the interview again?
Yeah.
Okay.
But those are the 3 beats that if we can hit those, and then we'll be fine.
Okay.
And then a wrap up at the end. But if we can hit those 3 beats.
Okay.
So we finish it. We get what we get. I'm driving to pick up the girls. I just called Jared and I was like, yo, I just want to say thank you. Like, thank you for providing that leadership, for that grounding. It was just such an embarrassing moment. I felt really shell shocked, but like, I just appreciate you took control. And he was like, I just kept thinking about Cree. I was like, the voiceover actor? So I was like, why? And he was like, that episode where she said, you know, when these moments of catastrophe happen, you just want a partner who can hold you down and take you through them and let you know that everything will be okay and not panic. And I was like, wow. One, it made me just grateful and reflective of all the times that he's provided that as a partner. And 2, it made me so grateful for the podcast, which provides these small bits of wisdom that I hope people latch onto to really make a difference in their intimate lives. Because I feel like on one hand, the idea of having a partner who is grounded, who is the calm within the storm, seems like a no-brainer. But for me, not until Cree said it did I really understand that, oh yeah, that's a requirement for me out of an intimate partner.
I had a huge aha moment when she said that, because I realized that what she wanted in having someone to create that safe space for her, and that she found that that was the attraction. I realized that I have that in my husband. And I never, ever looked at it that way. I never realized that that was the attraction. And I never viewed it as sexy until she said it was really sexy. And I'm like, holy cow. I said, that explains a lot of relationships in my life, for one, and why they didn't work out. And then it also explains why through so many years of marriage and so many adverse times, we're still together. And now, since that, watching that episode, I see my husband completely differently. I see him like in that light.
It was a really cool realization with watching that. And I literally, when I paused the episode and went into the other room, and I was like, Marcus, thank you for 1, allowing me to be my hard-headed self, and 2, for putting me in my feminine. And I just gave him a kiss and like went back and watched it.
I don't know that I know what that feeling is, if I'm completely honest. I feel like I relate more to when Cree said, I have the tendency to be like, I got this. But I haven't been in a situation where I felt, aside from when, for example, Shan, to relate to the podcast, when that happened, I was like, it's handled, it's great. But in a intimate relationship, I don't feel like I've had that. And maybe that's a sign for me to step back and, you know, let people, or let the person that I'm dating show up in that way. Maybe, you know, the thing that I'm doing right now, which is, oh, I'll take care of it. I'm not allowing that space.
Nancy, I also resonate with that. You know, I haven't had that experience of that level of intimacy in a romantic relationship, but it is something I look forward to having, because as we were discussing in the community chat earlier this week in the kind of advice section, I made a post about attachment in relationships, and our romantic relationships can really be a space of like corrective therapeutic healing and kind of adjusting our nervous system when we have someone who is secure and there to hold us down in those moments. So I really look forward to that as someone who is recovering anxious attachment. I know it's possible, and I think it's just the next level of intimacy unlocked when you can rely on your partner, consistently rely on your partner to be there to hold you down in those moments.
Well, Cree said, if a man cannot provide a sense of safety, he is not fuckable. And I thought that was brilliant, because sometimes, you know, you have to have those the criteria in your life.
At one point in the episode, she was talking about, like, sometimes we just want to be chosen, right? So like you overlook some things that could potentially be like red flags because it's just nice to be chosen, right? But then as like things progress, is being chosen worth it, right? Because I'm not necessarily getting what I'm looking for in a partner. Because Like, I think having that sense of like safety and security, not in the financial sense, right? But like when life happens, are you going to be able to pivot and make me feel comfortable in that? So
I feel like in Cree's case, when being chosen is your only option because you don't choose, that's when feeling chosen has extra weight to it. And so I think that the way to free yourself of that is to put yourself in the driver's seat. I want to get back to that, but before we pivot to desirability and age, which I think were beautiful themes of this episode, I want to turn on everybody and give what I also got from this episode. And this goes back to Lena Waithe's episode. And in Lena's episode, she said that
because I am sort of mask energy and very much protector, my initial energy when it comes to holding someone is to do this, to be the one doing the holding. And I've now learned, it took me a bit, that it's also very important for me to do this, to be held. And that is new for me. And that takes practice. And that can sometimes be like uncomfortable, to allow someone that's in the feminine to hold me, for me to be not the protector, for me not to be strong. And that is so much more rewarding than me giving her pleasure all night. Because I think, oh, that's my job. Let me hold you, let me, make you come a bunch of times. That can be cool and fun, but to allow myself to be held by someone, that is a revelation.
So I want to ask everybody here if we can all acknowledge, as people who date masculine people, that we enjoy it when our masculine partners like do this for us and they take control of the situation, they hold us down, and when we're frantic and the sky is falling, they're like, it's not, you're fine, you're on your period. You're like, oh yeah, that is true. So thank you for that. But are you guys, or do you have examples of times that you have held your partner so that they can do this?
For me, it's when my father-in-law, my husband's father, he had Alzheimer's. And it's the time when he could no longer remember my husband's name. My husband was the first family member who got forgotten. And I remember seeing the genuine crushing, even though he academically understood what was going on, that soul crushingness of not being recognized by your father. And I think that was the one time when, I just had to put my hands around my husband and let him be vulnerable, let him be held and be taken care of.
My spouse's family, when we kind of first started dating, they lost their home. And so they spent a lot of nights in like hotels, and definitely that was the first time that, probably first and only time that he's cried with me.
Yeah, I think similar to my point I was mentioning earlier, this level of vulnerability I feel is very unique to deep relationships where you've kind of been with each other for a long time. And my experience has been like, even if I like someone and the feelings are really invested and maybe we've talked or like known each other for a while, there still is just this level of intimacy or vulnerability that comes with like men in opening up and sharing to that extent and allowing me to be the support, because I know they're going through things. I can see it and how they're interacting with me, how they become distant, but allowing themselves to be held like that and to have someone pour into them. At times they've been resistant.
I want to just say, Denise, that this reminds me of the episode with Abba and Preach, which was titled, Do We Really Want Vulnerable Men?
I'm giving you what it takes to hurt me deeply.
I loved the point that you made in that for a lot of men, being vulnerable can feel like they've cheapened themselves in the same way that women may feel giving up sex too early can cheapen themselves.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because there's plenty of women who can honestly say that they've slept with somebody and it's been used against them afterwards. The idea that they were open with their sexuality. And I think a lot of men can say the same things about their vulnerability. I think it's fantastic that this rhetoric was like, get vulnerable, man. Be more vulnerable.
Yes.
Get in touch. But people never really explore what happens to men when they do and what are the downsides.
Listening to this episode, it made me realize just how important it is to have a partner who provides provision. I think, again, we think of provision as like food, sustenance, and shelter, but provision is the ability to see what the person beside you currently can't. So we're both looking at the same thing. I'm seeing the sky is falling, doom and gloom, and you're seeing mystery and hope. And kind of like what Cree said, the dad was like, oh, great, we can't get gas. Like, let's see how we can do this. This is gonna be a fun game. Like, that person is able to see an optimistic reality that you can't. I think that this is something that we all want, regardless of gender. So what if we bake that into our understanding of what is required out of intimate partnership? What would that look like, and how can we offer that?
Showing up for yourself in the way that you would show up for your best friend. I would show up for my best friend and see the positive. But for me, if it's something for me and I'm like, girl, you see, the negative starts coming in. So applying those things to myself so I can then show up for others in a way that's rooted in care and support that I provide for myself first.
Yes. It's just been so wonderful to have these thoughts and to share with the community who can just bounce off of you and enhance them. So thank you all for that. I actually really want to get into the conversation around desirability and aging. It's very tender for me as somebody who just got in my 40s, and I imagine it's tender for you guys too. So let's stop right now on the public recording so we can talk more intimately together. And I'll say bye to all of you. If you're interested in joining the community, go to loversbyshan.com/community to sign up for the wait list. And for everybody else, I will see you next week on the podcast. Bye.